everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Universal Lens.
Heyo!
I'm John Emilio.
And I'm Henry Beltra.
How's everybody
And
doing?
we're back. Yeah. Now, there's no white powder here. It's just me
There's no white powder here.
cleaning my nose here.
Yes, we're back for another episode. 46, working our way there.
Yeah, we're almost there.
I hope everybody came back. Whoever did, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So what's up?
Been dealing, bro. Dealing with life, like everybody. I hope everybody's been dealing with life. I hope you've been dealing with life better as you listen to the show, as you employ techniques, tactics, hear our stories, hear our anecdotes, and you employ them. Because Lord knows, we just shared a few. And, the pre-show is where it's at. And believe me, we employ every single strategy, technique of our own and on our own daily life. Because, again, like when you first enter the frame, I look at John and I say, John, you've done the impossible. Like, you transcended. Like, but guess what?
It's not impossible.
Right? But guess what? John has to work at this every day. And, so as perfect,
Absolutely.
So as perfect as you may be in my eyes, you're not.
Aww.
Like the reality, the reality is that you're not perfect.
No.
I'm not perfect. And
the grass always seems greener on the other side.
That's correct. And what happens is, again, the naysayer, I put words in the naysayer, this imaginary naysayer, where who says, oh yeah, you guys are the perfect. No, that's not what we say. That's not what we promote. What we say, what we promote is this mindfulness, this act of you, not your brain, you being in control of your thoughts, emotions, not your brain. Because when they say you, remember, this is your brain. Like, so who's thinking, me or this? So you're two different people.
Well, it's the I and myself that a guy like the spiritual teacher Eckhart Tolle speaks about. Like, if I am my thoughts, then who is the one that's noticing them?
Right.
And it's not really that you're another entity. It's not that there's another I, because there really isn't. But there's this one thing that notices everything. So I think that's what you're kind of
yeah.
And like noticing the thoughts and not becoming them.
And we talked about Dispenza last week. Dr. Joe Dispenza, and Dr. Joe says during his meditations, he says you kind of gotta treat yourself the way you train a dog. He says it's a little bit like that, where you sit down to meditate, and you know what your mind's doing? Hey, we gotta go get a cup of coffee. Hey, it would be great right now if we get
Squirrel.
Squirrel. You know what? It'd be great. This is taking a little bit long, and you know what? I'm pretty sure that thing for work is.
Tries to pull you away, your mind.
And so he says, sit
like a dog,
stay. And he's like, you gotta teach your mind, you will not run away here. Sit and stay. He says, eventually it sits and stays. It's a very
it's a different approach for sure. And it works for certain people, right? It does work for certain people.
It's a different way to skin a cat, right?
Yeah.
But that's the message. So a lot of us, and I say us, right? A lot of us go through life, and we talked about the famous backdoor spike. The backdoor spike is real. It's such a slick little devil.
It's your mind coming back, and
any
with a different costume on.
Yeah,
but it's the same thing.
So any new input, that input can dig from the back of your card catalog a certain emotion that knows it's going to work. It plucks it.
And again, it does it in a mode of protection.
Yeah.
Not in a mode of like we've always said 1,000 times, your mind isn't trying to harm you. Your mind isn't trying to stop you from succeeding or stop you from doing things in life. Your mind's trying to help you, but it doesn't realize it's doing it. Most times in a very ill-mannered, unhelpful way. It's not doing it properly. And the backdoor spike is one of them. The backdoor spike is your mind's like, well, we should remind Henry, or we should remind John that, hey, don't forget last time this happened to you, what it was like, buddy, because you don't want to go through that again. And what if we have to go through that again? So and it'll come in the back door and it'll sit there with you and it'll stop kind of beating on you and beating on you and beating on you. And you might not realize it's doing that because it might have a different flavor than it did the first time, but it comes back anyway. And if you don't have any awareness, you kind of get caught up in it. And I was telling Henry a story about like years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, somehow I hurt my neck. I don't even know how I did it. Probably bad posture over computer. So guys, remember, always sit up.
Yeah.
You know, I learned a lot of things just on from that. But
no arm rest.
Yeah, but anyway, so I went through like it had to be 8-9 months before it really went away, and my neck hurt every day. And this was when I was beginning, and I spoke about this once before. I was beginning my path, and in the beginning, I was still like learning a lot, and then this happened at the same time. Anyway, so I got it resolved at some point, and mindfulness had a lot to do with it. But about a week ago, I was doing a lot of manual work, volunteering stuff here and there, and I tweaked something, doing on one of these places. Like I just pulled something one day, and I felt like a zing, and my neck got sore on the other side. And it kind of went away, but then it came back, and then it went away, and then it came back, and then one day it just came back, and it hurt a lot. Right away, my mind immediately grabbed me and pulled me back to 4 years ago and said, what if this is like that? What if this? What if that? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, it really laid into me for a good, I'm going to say half a day. Now, last time it's lasted 9 months, a half a day. And I kind of noticed it was doing that, but I was so kind of in reaction mode to try to fix it that I was overstretching and massaging and over that I was inflaming something that was already inflamed. I was making it worse without realizing it. Till I was able to, at some point during the day, take a breath, and I realized something again. I said, wait a minute. I said, I'm wishing this wasn't here. I said, as long as I'm wishing it wasn't here, my body's reacting in a tense way, as if I don't want this here.
Yeah.
So I started applying presence and mindfulness, and I said, I'm going to act as if, and I really wasn't saying this to myself, it was more of my perspective kind of changed. I was like, I'm going to act as if I want this pain to be here, as if I chose for my neck to hurt right now. And I said, I'm going to do what I want to do in spite of my neck hurting. Obviously within limitations, right? I wasn't like lifting weights or anything,
right.
but
standing on your head.
Yeah, I wasn't doing anything. But I went on with my day. I had to do something for work. I had to do something for this. Me and my wife had to go to an appliance store to go talk about a dishwasher, and I did all these things even with the pain. Then I came home, and I was doing some more work, and I kept saying the pain is there. Like I would feel it when I would move a certain way, and it hurt. But I said, but I'm here. And all of a sudden, there was two of us. There was the pain, and there was I, this entity that noticed it but didn't attach to it. I'm not saying I healed anything by far. I'm not saying that, because I did do ice therapy I started doing ice and stuff like that. Within a couple of hours, the pain started to disappear slowly. The day after that, my traps were a little bit sorer still. Applied the same thing, slowly. Within a day or so, like they resolved 99%. I'm not saying I fixed anything, but I stopped getting in the way of my body, trying to relax whatever was spasm, whatever was tight, whatever was, out of sync, to remedy itself without me really trying to get in the way. And my body relaxed. So my mind wasn't going to trick my body into saying, I don't want this pain here. I accept the pain's here. I accept the pain's here, but I don't want it. I accept that the pain's here, but I don't want it. Because my body's going to realize that I'm bullshitting myself, and those muscles are still going to stay tight.
Yeah.
They're not going to release.
It's the old, you can't lie to God.
You can't lie to God. But once I really meant it, I chose this pain to be here. There was a release. Not an immediate release of the muscle spasm, but there was a release internally of acceptance. Pure acceptance.
At least the mental, emotional tension was not there.
But once you do that, your body, and that's what Dr. Joe talks about, your body syncs up.
Yeah.
But you got to mean it. You can't say, I want to be accepting with your fingers crossed. You can't say, I accept that this horrible thing happened to me, and go like this.
Please go away. Please go away.
Please go away. Please go away. You're not accepting it. If you want something to go away, on a certain level, everybody wants something horrible that's happening to stop. But if you want something to go away while you're trying to say, I accept that you're here, at the same time, you have two forces moving towards each other. There's no there's no synchronicity. You're not synced at that point. You're not flowing in the same direction. So you're saying one thing and your body's reacting a different way. At least that was happening for me until I allowed both my body and my mind to flow the same way and say, no, it's as if I really wanted it. Fuck it. Like I wanted this pain to be here. Obviously, on a level you don't want it to, but I really meant it when I said, if this is how I have to live my life, this is how I live my life. And I allow my body to sync up. So if you're going through something in your life and you want to, and somebody will say, well, I'm going to apply acceptance. Okay. All right. I accept that this is here. I accept that I have these thoughts. I accept that I have these, all obsessive compulsive thoughts. I accept that I have this anxiety. I accept it. 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 Why isn't it going away? That's not how it works.
Just burning your tires.
You're burning your tires. You're sitting. Yeah, you do. You literally. You're burning your tires, but you're not moving. You're. Oh wait, who was it? Denzel Washington said it once. Don't misinterpret movement, progress. Movement for progress. He goes, you can move in circles and never get anywhere.
That's true.
He goes, progress is different. So like, if you're really accepting, there's got to be a willingness to say, this is how it is, and I embrace that this is how it is. Truly,
a true,
like this is how it is, and there's a release instantly, like a universal. I'll say it's a universal release, where all of a sudden you line up a certain way. Everything kind of syncs and lines up in the same direction for you. I'm not saying things get better immediately, but you're not suffering at this point anymore, and you can move forward and you make better choices. Like I've always said, acceptance isn't. People think acceptance is not taking action. Like, I accept that it's here.
Right.
No, that's not acceptance.
Do what you want with
me.
Do
what you want with me. Right. It is what it is. What am I going to do? That's not excuse me. That's not acceptance. It's not acceptance at all. Acceptance is, I accept that it's here, and my actions are going to be in line with me saying, I'm not trying. I'm not struggling with this. I'm not struggling that this is I don't want this. I'm trying to find the right. I don't not want this here, but I'm going to move forward as if it wasn't here anyway. Like as if this wasn't happening to me.
I'm not going to allow anything to contribute to suffering. So
yes, that's a way of putting it.
I won't suffer for it.
No. Yes.
So
no.
You gave me this horrible neck pain. I won't suffer for it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
I am one
with
this
gratitude.
Pain.
It's gratitude for it.
And remember what I told you before. So like I've been having similar. So you had your backdoor spike. I've been having similar backdoor spikes. You know where mine stem from. I have a crucial anxiety, critical anxiety when it wants to pop up. But I've been keeping it, very nice and tame. In other words, anxiety lives in my closet. But I've been doing a good job recently of keeping it there and not having it give me suffering, not having to have the suffering that comes along with the anxiety. So when I felt it coming up all throughout the week, I had a pretty busy week on many different levels. And I just find that these keywords help me. So not necessarily, I think everybody's going to work differently. I could be wrong, but
yeah, no. So what works for you specifically, you're like how you like to apply it. Somebody else might apply it a little bit differently.
Yeah. So what worked for me, again, just this is me. So I've been listening a lot to Dr. Joe Dispenza, and there's two keywords that kind of bring me back. And one was abundant. So why would that word bring me back? It's because, well, when I try to meditate and try to get into a certain headspace, the abundant mindset is much more relaxed than a lack mindset. So
100%.
Right? So if I get in that brainwave, my meditations are much more fruitful. They mean more.
Sure.
They're much more effective. That's the word I'm trying to use. But then there's a second word, which is gratitude. When you're in a gratitude space, you are much more. I can't tell you how different you're going to feel If you can get yourself in a gratitude mindset, and you could say,
but real gratitude,
yes,
like, and that goes back to what I was saying before, not a phony gratitude.
no,
like you got to really mean it. Like you have to really, really mean it.
And I'll be honest with you and the audience, like 100% right here. I am more, let's say, I'm going to use the word honest but I am more identified with the gratitude word and the gratitude mindset, easier identified than with the abundance. So for me,
yeah, that's fine.
I struggle a little bit to fully sink into it, but not that I can't do it.
It resonates with you a little bit better, and that's fine.
But when I say that I am grateful, I am 100% truthful and honest, and I truly feel grateful because, as woe is me as one can do, right? So whether woe is
very,
me,
very easy to go there.
So whether woe is me on whatever level you want, I can turn around and go, wow, there's a lot of bad going on in this world, and some of it right near me, and I'm very grateful. And I start to do a quick assessment of the things you're grateful for. Now, you know what? Everything that's important is hitting all cylinders. I am super grateful because at any moment in time, you can get a curveball. And we've been dealt a few curveballs, but when you're grateful, they don't hit. They don't hit. It's like
so when you say they don't hit, it means you don't get caught up in it because
you don't get caught up.
Yeah, because the curveball will still happen.
But you don't get that suffering.
No, yes, no,
and
choice.
So gratefulness and abundance are very nice waves to get into, and to keep your head in those feelings of abundance and gratefulness. And it works for me. It helps me keep, just say, all the players at my table at bay. And it keeps me choosing which way I want to feel, which way I want to go about it, right? As opposed to...
So your mind is a very, and I think this is where everybody's a little bit different, right? Your mind, and so while we do the same thing, I think we take different approaches at times.
Yeah.
So you've always said your mind is very militaristic, right?
Yeah, it's a very...
You're very regimented, right? Like battle plan. Go here, go there, go do this, up. And that's fine. It works. That works for you when you're applying that trait properly, right? So if your trait could flip on you and be very self-defeating if you're not careful, right?
I'll be my own worst enemy.
Your own worst enemy. Okay. So for me, like, it's a... So I don't want to say the word. I'm trying to find the right word. Not dumb it down, but for me, I simplify it way more. And it's just like Moji said. It's just a release. Like
it's a click back.
It's a click back. I just release and come into presence. I'm not trying to think my way out. I'm not trying to. And from there, my actions are responses, not reactions. I start responding to a situation, not reacting to it. But again, that's what works for me, because from day one, when I was going through the process, at first I was going through the thinking process of, okay, think this, and then I'll not thought selection, but like applying new tools. I got these tools, and I would take my tools out all the time, and I would practice acceptance, and I would apply this tool for acceptance, this tool for acceptance, this tool for acceptance, and I would live by my values, and I would go through a procedure until one day I just realized that I only had gotten so far with that. And I kept hitting, and I speak about this in the book, where I kept hitting a wall. And I'm like, yes, but I keep getting into this loop where even though it works, I have to reapply these tools constantly. And then I got to reapply these tools constantly. I was waiting. I was like, there's got to be something where it just automatically happens. And that's that. I know this is, people, it's hard for somebody going through something to understand when we say you just snap into presence. But I think by doing what you're doing, so this is kind of when you say we're on two different levels, and I say, well, there's really no different levels, because we're not. We get into the same place. It's just, I think with experience, I've learned how to get there. I found the shortcut where I just get there by, like, I just snap myself back into presence at this point. But I had to get there by using the tools for a certain amount of time, to realize it. And listen, power to the people like Eckhart Tolle, who woke up one morning and just had it. Like, and it was there. For me, the way my mind was, and it could be what you've experienced in life, your thought patterns, the way your neural pathways are, it just takes a little bit longer for you to go from signaling this way to now you're forming a new neural pathway here, and it's slowly turning, and you're getting there to where eventually you get that shortcut that gets there. So for me, I kind of had to do the same thing. But then it just became where I noticed it that day and I said, release. Without saying the word to me, acceptance, release, this is what I want. And I just put myself into absolute presence, and everything else was separate. Like my body, my pain, my real life issue was something different than what I am. And I can't be touched in that realm. You can't be touched. There's nothing that can touch you because it's almost you're beyond this physical form that's happening. But it's a place of, at some point you have to come back, because in order to live life, you need to do things, right? So, but you learn how to kind of hold that balance between both at times. But you get there by doing kind of what you're doing now.
But, well, why is it that everything you said right now is not foreign? I get it 100%. Because I have those moments. So I'm not 100% only to what I just said. I have those moments where...
No, yeah, I didn't mean you were 100%.
But
I mean,
you're right. I have less of those, and I have more of the, hey, think back. But I have those moments where it's an automatic, notice, done. But they're fewer. You understand? They're definitely few, and I can see how I can get there by just...
And look, life plays into that too, right? If you have a day that's just
Sure,
crazy busy, and you're thinking about things all day because you need to, right? It's a necessity to take care of tasks and stuff. Okay, it's a little harder to just kind of anchor in that pure presence, because, all right, well, I got to come back and,
sure.
I need to take care of this. I have
Sure.
to deal with this issue,
There's a
whatever it is.
problem,
But
yeah.
you could deal with it with presence. You could deal with it from a place of presence instead of just a place of the thinking mind also, right? And that's kind of what pure acceptance is. It's dealing with something from a place of presence, not from a place of just the thinking mind. You can't think your way to acceptance.
But
you can and you can't. You can't. You can think your way to acceptance, but at some point,
I think you can use it as a beginning.
yes, at some point, there's got to be a release of saying, this is what is happening, and I truly 100% accept it. I don't need it to be different than it is, because this is what it is, and I move forward from here in my life. Like when you get to that point, that's where the problems, as sucky as they are, because we all have them, are just issues that you're dealing with, and they're not, oh my God, and they're not, oh my God, and they're not, oh my God, because that oh my God feeling keeps you stuck in this. My God!
It's a debilitating.
It's a debilitating, and that debilitating loop keeps you in a place where you attract more and more and more of that same kind of karma, or that same kind of karmic energy.
So that negative...
I know this is a little,
no, but that is exactly right. It's exactly where I wanted to go. So that whatever's going on in here and in here will give out some sort of magnet to say, hey, negativity, I'm right here, because we love stewing over this.
Doesn't mean bad shit won't happen, crappy shit won't happen to you. Don't get me wrong.
On the flip side, on the other side of that equation is what Dr. Joe was saying. Well, if you want to change your external reality, then you got to change your personality, which is your personal reality.
I like that.
Yeah. Which is your personal reality. And how do you change your personal reality? Well, the neurons that wire together fire together.
Yeah, see, he gets very technical about it, which is way above my pay grade. Like I make it sound so simple, and he kind of explains how to do it.
No, but this is. I honestly, I think it's marketing cuteness that he does.
Oh, I'm sure there is something to
when
that.
he says this. But does it work?
Sure.
Can you learn something? Yes. So
yeah, absolutely.
Bottom line is,
I love it.
If you're able to, in your meditation, your goal is to let the thought be there, but let it pass by. You don't focus on that. And eventually what you notice is, as we did in the last meditation, when there is something you do want to focus on, well, let it be there. Let that be your choosing. And I'm focusing to think of this beautiful thought. It's not a bad thing.
No, you're putting it out there. You're putting it out. It's like a prayer, right? People who pray, dear God, I pray for this. You're doing the same exact thing. You're saying, universe, this is what I would like to envision. Not you get exactly what you envision. No, not necessarily. Don't get me wrong. You don't, but you attract. Like the universe says, well, okay, here's opportunities for you to get there. All of a sudden, pop, pop, pop. You start getting these opportunities for you to get what you're kind of putting out there.
Your juju is
your juju
is good, as opposed to
because if you're putting out that negative constantly, if you're buying into it and you're believing it and you're putting out more of it, well, you're gonna have more opportunities, unfortunately, for that negative stuff to be there than you are for that, positive stuff to be there, because you're not seeing that. Then you're not seeing the other side of that. Your focus is always going to be on the negative at that point, right? So like if you think you're accepting of what's happening, but you're truly not accepting it, like in the way that I put it, you're only going to attract more of that suffering and that pain. You're not going to attract what you want to release and to be in sync and to move forward. You're not going to get. That's not where you're going to go, because you're trying to trick yourself into saying, "Yeah, I'm accepting this." Are you? Like Mike, I was telling you about a friend of mine, right? And like the question is, are you truly accepting what's happening in life? Because if you are, there's a release instantly. And not that the problem and the issue goes away, not that maybe even the pain that you're feeling because the issue disappears. No, but there's a release where it's not dragging you down. You see it, you feel it, you notice it, but it doesn't drag you down. You don't. There's no heaviness. That claustrophobic, like Muji said, that claustrophobic feeling disappears all of a sudden. Disappears. But it only happens when you're truly accepting of what's happening. And a way to get there is like what you said, right? You have your little system. For me, it was acceptance, and I would say to myself, I'm going to live my life by my values, not by what my mind is telling me. People are like, well, that makes no sense. My mind would say this was going to happen and warn me. My values were different. My values are things that have been instilled in me over years. I value this. I value kindness. I value caring. I value helping people. I value family. I value friendships. I value peace. I value tranquility. The things like money's not one of the things that's on that list. I don't value money. I can value a career. Yeah, exactly. So and I will live my life. Those are my 10 commandments, right? That was my moral code. And I will live my life by that, not by what my mind was telling me. And that kept leading me to acceptance. I accept that this is here, but I'm going to live this way anyway. I accept this is here, but I'm going to live this way anyway. I accept that this is here, but I'm going to live this way anyway. And eventually that became, I accept that this is here. Boom. I didn't need to, there was no more, I'm going to live on my values. I didn't need to go through that other process anymore, because it became, I accept that this is here. And, and it just clicked me back into this, stillness, where I was able to then navigate where I want to navigate.
Your practice made it as automatic as the negative. So you created a new loop, because, as I said, the neurons and the feelings that fire together.
Yes.
So you created a new loop from here to here, that kept refeeding this kept refeeding this, and this kept so now you have a new positive different loop, but you know how it is to be in the negative loop.
Sure. And by the way, the negative loop still tries to resurface.
That's the backdoor spike. That's the wolf in another sheep. It was the wolf in sheep's clothing.
Sheep's clothing. Yeah, that it doesn't stop trying to do that.
Right. You don't
notice it as much, but it doesn't stop trying to do that.
You don't lose that, because that's part of
being human.
It's part of you.
You're a human being.
You don't lose that, but you definitely, as Dispenza says,
we're perfectly imperfect.
You do become the master of your dog. Like,
yeah, and that's a great analogy. It's a great analogy.
Sit.
Done.
I'm sitting.
But I always caution. It's just some people that won't work.
Right.
Like for me, that wouldn't work. that would have kept me in a very stern.
But you get the idea.
But I love the idea.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. The beauty of this is whether what Dr. Joe work says resonates with you more than like what I say or Eckhart Tolle says. It's like what these spiritual teachers say, for me, resonates. It makes sense. I've always been that. As a kid, I always had this, there's something greater than me essence feeling in me. So for me, that I get it. I just get it. I don't know how I get it. I don't know why I get it. I just get it. Other people, they get to the same place where I am, but they get there by doing what Dr. Joe says, right? By having a more scientific, more organized way to get there. That becomes, at some point, this. It becomes this.
Yes.
It's not like it doesn't. It becomes this, but you get there using different words than maybe I used in the beginning when I was getting there.
You know how Bruce Wayne is Batman?
And when I say this, I don't mean like I'm saying, but
You know how Bruce Wayne is Batman?
I am Batman.
Right? You take off the Batman costume, he's Bruce Wayne, right?
He's Bruce Wayne.
Right.
Filthy rich, but yes,
so
Bruce Wayne.
At the end of the day, it's not Batman, it's Bruce Wayne. That's the hero.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You have Bruce Wayne. Some people need Batman. And
the Dark Knight.
And it's possible that at the end of the day, Bruce Wayne walked into their life as Batman, who was more palatable and more understandable, and then he just takes off the helmet. He says, "I'm Bruce Wayne," and then you realize I've been Bruce Wayneing, this whole time. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think it all comes back to that little relationship that we said the other day. Is like, we don't speak brain, so it's very hard.
I like that,
right?
Yeah, I remember when you said that.
It's very hard for us to understand brain, and fuck, it just because we don't speak brain, we think we know how to speak brain. When a thought enters your mind as an unconscious or as a civil person, as a civilian, it takes us wherever it wants, and we're constantly victim. And
when you don't realize what your brain's actually trying to do,
and when you're on this side of the table, and we've been doing this for a while, we were just talking about this before, you can see it. You have this lens where, oh boy,
it's like ESPN. You said that was a great analogy. It's almost like you have ESPN, like replay. And this happens to me constantly. I'll be sitting there talking with somebody, and I will be watching the conversation happening in real time. If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm watching this conversation, like while I'm having it, I'm actually watching it happen. And as I'm watching it happen, I'm noticing things immediately, noticing things that I say or what my mind wants to say. And then something like, well, that's not what we're going to say. Like, but it's not like 6 hours later, which does happen sometimes. It's like
on the spot.
Like I'm replaying it on the spot. Like, I'm getting that highlight reels happening as they're happening.
You're shedding the old you as you do that, because the old you would have probably said a little more knee-jerk reaction thing, a little bit more gossipy thing.
Yeah.
But you're shedding that because you're constantly trying to get yourself in this beautiful.
I choose to stay in that beautiful place.
Okay. Yeah.
I just choose to stay in that beautiful place.
And there are times
it's off-putting for people, but
but there are times where your neck is gonna beat the crap out of you, and then you kind of fall back.
Sure.
But we're
human,
right? And that's what I'm saying is like that backdoor spike is a son of a bitch. And if you're not prepared, if you're not wise in the language of brain, it's gonna take you. And it could probably destroy a good few weeks, months of work that if
you're not careful. Yeah, it's so with obsessive compulsive disorder. One of the biggest hangups that people who are making progress have. So you have a client who comes in and they're dealing with their therapist, and they're 5-6 months in, and they're doing well. They've worked on these themes, right? There's these themes, and we worked on these themes,
recurring.
And the mind goes, okay. What about this? And you're like,
you're like, oh shit.
Oh,
you're right.
You don't realize it's not realizing that it's the same cone, just a different flavor of ice cream on top. My therapist loved when I gave her that analogy. She's like, I'm going to use that. I'm like, but isn't it? She's like, it absolutely is. She goes, the cone hasn't changed. It's just He got used to strawberry, butter pecan. What? Butter pecan? What do you mean butter pecan?
Yeah, what the hell?
What the hell?
It's not the same as strawberry,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Is something wrong with me?
Now what do I do?
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's what so people with obsessive compulsive disorder, that's one of their biggest hangups is it comes back in, changes its costume, right?
Now I'm Spider-Man.
Changes its costume, but underneath the costume, it's the same thing,
Yeah.
but we don't realize it, and it grabs us and it takes us for a ride. But you don't have to experience obsessive compulsive disorder to have, the backdoor spike is a term for obsessive compulsive disorder. Well, it's associated with that mostly, but it could be any thought pattern,
Right.
any anxious thought pattern. You don't have to be experiencing obsessive thinking or obsessive compulsive disorder to experience what we call like a backdoor spike. It's just your mind comes back in after you're acclimating to something and gives you another, but what if? Or what does this mean? Or what does that mean? Or this sucks? Or isn't this the worst? Or John, is this neck pain gonna be like last time? Like you're like, well, that's not a spike. Yeah, it kind of is, because what it's doing is coming back in and trying to grab me and pull me into old mental traits, old behavioral patterns, old ways of thinking. Right? So I'm sorry, I mean to cut you off.
No. I'm the opposite. I don't want to cut you off, but to give it an elementary education kind of comparison, I think you've been neglecting that part of the brain for so long that it's constantly, yo, look at me, look, what the fuck is wrong with you? You don't look at me anymore, man. So it's got to,
the kid, daddy,
it's got to try new stuff.
Sure.
So what it does is it goes into your card catalog of the brain and go, watch this.
Rolodex?
Yeah, it goes into the Rolodex of feelings. Because like we've spoken about it before. Where do we have our hard drive? Like, where's the hard drive? And how much of that hard drive is real? Because we do reimagine experiences and thoughts.
Sure, false memories.
Right. And so he goes in there and he says, watch this. I'll get him back. And he plucks that feeling, and he's going to give you something current to match to the past. And you're like, oh my God, that's that? Oh my God.
It's like a smell.
Yeah.
A taste.
And
a song.
And it's like it comes back and you're like, son of a bitch, it's back. Son of a bitch. That's that backdoor spike. It kind of like, watch me figure out how to play, because you're like a piano. I know how to play you. Oh, those key doesn't work. Watch this. That worked, right?
That was the key. Yeah, sure, but it's one of those things that if that awareness isn't there, if that noticing isn't there, it's very easy for the mind to do that. And the mind isn't doing it to like it's the mind it's really trying. It's doing its job, like you said before, and I love that analogy. We don't speak brain.
Yeah.
People, what do you mean we don't speak brain? I understand what I'm saying. Yeah, but do you understand what your mind is telling you?
Yeah, no.
No, your mind is just going to spit shit out to you constantly. If there's no awareness of what it's spitting out, it's hard for you to understand it's easy. I'm sorry. It's easy for you to get lost down the rabbit hole of what it's trying to tell you.
It's so easy.
It's so
easy.
It's so easy.
Because
it'll pick things like you said.
But instinctually, you want to survive. So,
of course.
So naturally, you follow that instinct. But you don't realize you're going into a rabbit hole, or you're going into this loop. And
that's why thinking your way out. And that was last week's episode. Thinking your way out.
And that little brain is like, we did it. Okay, he's paid attention. All right, we're going to live. In reality.
But it'll keep doing that again and again and again. And
in the real world, you're suffering.
Yeah, you're chasing your tail. You're a dog going in a circle, chasing your tail, thinking, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. And
it's ill-spent energy.
It's ill-spent, yeah. It's confusing movement for progress.
Because you're
just spinning your tires.
And like I said, 6 p.m. Oh, my God.
You're spent.
Yeah, no. You can't eat. You can't go to the gym. You can't enjoy anything. You're done. You wasted yourself here. And so the question is that what you want? I think the majority be like, I don't want that. Okay, great. So let's choose something different. Right. Let's try to change our personal reality.
But that again, so only way you're going to change your personal reality is by realizing, and there's got at some point, no matter how much of this, whether you follow like Dr. Joe or like which I don't want to say Dr. Joe's theory is like it's not like acceptance commitment therapy, but it's a version of more of a scientific approach, which is what ACT is. Whether you're following ACT or you're following Dr. Joe or you're following Eckhart Tolle, or you're following Sadhguru, or you're following, I don't know, or you have a great OCD therapist like I did and Dr. Tatiana, or you're following all these great online advocates who tell you all these great things. At some point, you have to realize there's got to be, and this is what the key is. There's always that realization that you get this until you could truly say, I am not my mind, and understand what that means. Like getting caught in those loops becomes a very real possibility constantly until you're able to say, I'm not my thinking mind. I'm not that thinking mind.
Yes.
That thinking mind is what allows me to talk. It allows me to speak. It allows me to think. It allows me to come up with the ideas and the metaphors and the similarities and the stories that we're all talking about on this show. But it's not who I am. I'm the one that watches it. And until that clicks, when that clicks, I should say, is when it all makes a ton more sense than it does just when you're kind of going through these steps and these steps and these steps. And
yes.
When I say, I don't identify with my mind. Till this day, I say it to people, and people look at me like I'm fucking crazy. You don't identify? No, I don't identify with my mind. I'm not my mind. I'm John, but I'm not John. Like what I am, I was telling you before the show, and when we talk about death, sometimes it's, nobody wants to die. Everybody loves experiencing life, but there's that part of me that always knows there's something greater than me. I'm not talking about souls and heaven and pearly gates. I'm talking about there's something greater than in me that I know is there that's beyond my body. So the fear of, while I don't want to be there when I die, the fear of like what comes after death, it's not there because when I anchor in presence, there is no fear of it.
It's a release.
It's a release. There is no fear of it. So that's that sweet spot that when you go from whatever we're talking about to it making absolute sense, when you could say, I am not my mind. Like Eckhart Tolle always says, people ask him, when do I know when I've stopped suffering? When do I know when I've surrendered? And he'll always say, when you no longer need to ask that question. As long as you're going around saying, oh, have I accepted? No. Like Dr. Joe says, it hasn't worked. Well, you're not good enough yet.
You're not good enough.
Have I accepted? You're asking me if you've accepted. Am I accepting properly? I'm going to tell you no. Why no? Because you're asking me. If you're asking me still, am I accepting properly? Then you haven't, I don't say mastered, but you haven't,
you're faking it till you make it, which is fine.
It's part of the process. But at some point, that faking it till you're making it, my kid's karate, right? Sophia's karate, her instructors always said, we're going to learn a new move. And the kids would be like, oh. And the sensei looked at them and goes, fake it till you make it.
Follow the pattern.
But eventually, if it's a year later and you're still faking it, and he will look at you and go, okay, well, you're still faking it. But now you're faking it. Have you put the work in to learn how to make it? Are you practicing properly? And the answer overwhelmingly is no, which is why you haven't learned to make it yet. But in the beginning, sure, you fake it till you make it, but eventually you do make it. Eventually you do get there. And when you get there and you no longer need to ask the question, what does it mean I'm not my mind? What does it mean, have I surrendered? Am I accepting? When those questions are still being asked, then you haven't made that yet. You're still in the faking it mode, which is okay. You're still working towards it. But once you get there, that's it. And the answer is you just know. Like there's no checklist, there's no certificate, there's no it's none of that. You just know.
Is it possible that as you're let's say in your making it phase, is it possible that you can teeter in both worlds and kind of have a flavor of holy, I think I kind of made it there for a moment, but I'm kind of back in the real world, let's say.
No, so you're going to teeter back and forth, but once you understand it, the teetering back and forth is just part of being a human being.
Because I feel that.
Like I don't walk around in bliss all day.
But I feel what you just mentioned. I feel it.
So then
I'm in also this real, as they say, 3D world.
3D world. Yeah, it's like here, this is happening, this is here now.
And then I'm like, I guess this is going for a ride and going, what's real? And so we're doing two things there. We're going off on the tangent. We don't, because you said, who gives a shit? Stop. Don't ask that question.
Yeah.
But it's not that I ask it. It's just that it instinctually just comes in.
Yeah, but what do you mean? What's real? Like, is this real? Is this table actually here?
After you,
or is it just a bunch of zeros and ones like in the Matrix?
No, I can't explain this. But okay. So say you're in your own meditation and you went deep and it was very, very
peaceful,
very peaceful, and it's very good.
Cool.
And the juice flow that you get from that is so nice, and you're on a great wavelength.
Nice
and then
juju.
all of a sudden you come back, and you're like, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good today. And you feel great, and you feel like, let's go. And then you start having these interactions with other humans.
These damn humans always fuck shit up.
And then you kind of come back to that. Okay, so you were up here, but now you come back to this 3D world, and you're like, I want to apply that all day long. So you're like coming in and out. If it's hard for me to put into words, but it's easier for me to express the feeling.
So it's okay to coming back in and out is part, because so when I interact with somebody, I'm anchored in my thinking mind because I'm actually thinking with you, but it's when you're able to have both at the same time. So when I could talk to you, but as I'm talking to you, I'm not talking to you just as John. I'm actually watching myself speak as I'm speaking. It sounds funky, right? But it is. Like I'm actually watching myself speak to you. There are times where that doesn't happen. There are times where I get so engrossed in a conversation where I'm just speaking, and I'll go 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 seconds, and all of a sudden, boom, I'll catch myself. And I'll kind of, there'll be this moment where I kind of pull back as I'm talking, and I'm like, whoa, so where are we going with this? Are we just going to start ranting?
No, but that's it.
Or are we just going to start going off on a tangent, like creating a multiverse, or are we going to stay on this path?
That's awareness.
That's awareness.
But that's awareness. In other words, you might have had those 10 seconds, 15 seconds where awareness was backseated, but
it comes back.
It's always present. So it does enter in the conversation. So now, instead of going on the same tangent that an unconscious person would go to, now your next, because you know how conversations evolve, flow.
Sure they do.
I'm a professional conversationalist. I think that those are one of my fortes. That I could probably sit across from a stranger, and we would thread the needle so good that we could be there for hours. But I have to catch myself, or I don't have to. I instinctually now catch myself in saying, well, the old unaware me would go this way with the conversation. We'd be gossiping. We'd be, as they say in Spanish, tirándole el cuero, right? So like you're gonna be like, yeah, do you see what they were wearing, and or Joe, does he even work out his legs?
I was at a party last night, and I was hearing a lot of that to my left, to my right, and it was a lot of the night where I was just quiet. Or cutting the rug, but besides that, I was quiet. I was quiet because that happens, sure.
But you notice that happens, and I'm gonna do this because I see it, and I see where my old me would have been all over that conversation, be like, dude, you see it, disgusting. Oh my god!
Isn't it funny how there's that party that you notice wants to? Right, like that,
because those are old patterns.
Those are old patterns. Like so, like I said, last night, even when I was there, I was at this party, and I had a really nice time with a lot of great friends. It was great, but people tend to have their conversations, and there's a part of people, and I was trying to say that even I was at one point in my life part of that mentality where you want to. Did you hear he's got a girlfriend? Did you hear this? Did you hear that?
He's still married.
He's got the day. Did you hear this? Blah 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 blah. That one. She's like, oh, she's a drinker. Oh, and as I'm walking around, I'm hearing these conversations, and I'm going from person to person, because if that's what the conversation was, I'd walk away because I'm going to be standing there
awkward
because there's nothing really. And then there'll be conversations that were more, organic, and they weren't about complaining or gossiping. They were just about, somebody was having a real life situation. We were just discussing something, and that was nice. But like, you notice that, and you notice it more and more and more in people. And I just, like I said last night, I pulled myself. I noticed a part of me would be like wanted to go like this. Like there was this little thing in me wanted to go, oh, yeah. Did you hear? And as that tickle is in the back of my mind, going, come on, come on, come on, come on. I'm seeing it, and I'm like, yeah, I don't like where that. Like I immediately notice I don't like where that goes.
Yeah.
It's baseless. It's fruitless. It's empty. It's void, and that's how I'm gonna feel after I say these words. So the choice is to not say the words.
100%.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna add the cherry on top, because you have this new operating system. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but you connect with people on a deeper level, even strangers. This is what I was trying to tell you before the show, where I met one of my son's teachers. I found myself just organically, not forced, organically, like wanting to know how you really are. Like when I say,
I think you said a key word there, but stranger. You notice how it's easier to do with people who don't have a predisposed identity of who you are to them already.
Good, okay.
So when it's somebody you don't know now, when you're a conscious person with awareness, you could connect with that person on a level that they might not even know that they have. But with somebody who already says, this is who Henry is. So that person won't allow you to connect with them on that level because they already think they know who Henry is. Like people think they know who John is. Well, John was super organized. John was this, John was that, John was this, John was that, John was this, John was that. So when they want to have a conversation with me sometimes, it's hard for them. It's harder for me to connect with them on that level because they don't allow me to reach that level.
They're stuck on the old version.
They're stuck on 10. I want to get down to 1. They're stuck on 10 still because they think old John would be like, yeah, John 10, let's go. This is where but somebody who I meet for the first time, my words could immediately go down to 1 with them because they look at me, they don't know anything about me. And the first words that come out of my mouth could be this or that. And we say something and they go, yes, wow, yeah. Oh, you know what? That's a good point. Because they're not forming a judgment. They're real time forming an opinion of me as I'm speaking. They don't have this opinion of me already. So it's easier for me to connect with those people who I don't know than people that I do know. Like I told you before the show, I'm kind of going on a path right now with something, and we'll mention it later on. But I'm doing it because I want to connect with people I don't know more than people I do know. Because people I do know, like I said, they don't allow me to get to the first floor with them.
Some people.
No. Some people don't allow me. But other people who don't know me, it's easier for me to get there with them.
Yep.
Because they don't know nothing about me. They're like, wow, what this guy's saying makes sense, or it's intriguing at least,
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and here's another one. Tell me if this doesn't happen to you, because I find that if I say this to my wife, for example, she's gonna look at me weird, like,
She looked at you weird even before.
Yeah, that's why she married me. She needs glasses. No, but I think I told you this. I've always been able to get the vibe of people.
Yes.
So sometimes I like to call it our bloods don't mix or our bloods mix well.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain.
No, I get it. I mean,
but having awareness, having presence, having mindfulness, and being a student, it's ever so charged. I can get vibes quickly. So what happened is, I think when I met that teacher, I got good vibes.
Yes, exactly.
And
you connected.
My
your energy.
Right.
There's a karmic level of energy there that connects with that person immediately.
So I realized that this person doesn't know me from a hole in the wall. She knows my son, and she's speaking highly of my son, which is great, and that also helps you connect.
Sure, too, right? Absolutely.
But I found some beauty. I found some goodness in this person that I gravitated towards, and I found myself, because I am a student of nonverbal cues too, right? So
Yes.
so
Body language, stuff like that.
again, when we're in business, right? And you understand that when you're in business and, the old fashioned, if somebody crosses their legs and crosses their arms, they're not being receptive, right? And all that stuff. But also
Yeah, there's a lot to body language.
right?
Yeah.
The look, the expression,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Cues that people give you without realizing it.
I found myself, which again, when you meet a stranger, especially in 2023, you don't usually touch them. But I'm a big believer in touch as far as that,
Shaking the hand.
the passing of
Yeah.
energy. It's something that bonds people.
But only if you're in tune.
100%.
You got to be in tune. If you're not in tune, it's just a handshake. It's a sweaty handshake.
So like I found myself talking to this person, and because I found good vibes, I sensed good vibes and all that. So I did something in 2023 is kind of weird in the sense I did this, hey, and like I did when he's like, nice to meet you, nice to meet you. And then while she's talking about my son, I go, thank you so much, thank you. Like I find that when you touch somebody like that, it's like a quick bond. It's like energy bond.
Yeah.
Kind of like you tell that person everything I'm saying is true. Like,
well, I mean, yes. I mean, that's
so I find that those things
goes into that, but yeah,
are heightened.
So yes, so like I was saying before, and totally agreeing with you. Yes, there is a definite. You definitely have a better sense of somebody immediately when you're in a place of awareness and you're in a place of presence, when you could get a vibe off of somebody. You could get an energetic vibe, right? And it could be something that they say. Like somebody will say something and I know where this person's already starting to go. Energy doesn't vibe with me. It could be a nice person, but we're not vibing, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a whole thing and then we'll cut it because we're getting long. There's a lot of people who experience awakenings as just again a term, right? When we say awakening, somebody who's become awakened and they're mindful and they're present and they have awareness and they notice stuff. People who have these awakenings at times feel like they don't have a tribe anymore. So the people that they knew in their lives are foreign to them because that connection has been severed.
Yeah.
And that connection hasn't been severed on a physical level where they don't talk to the person or they don't see it, but it's been severed on and I use the word karmic to kind of give a little bit of an example of, or an idea of what I'm talking about, more of an energy level.
Yeah.
Like that's been cut now. Like, okay, listen, I could see you're the nicest guy in the world. and I have people like this in my life. I love you to death. Hang out with you and we'll do whatever. But we're not like what we used to be has been cut because I see the world out of a whole different pair of lenses now that you're still not. And that's fine that you're not. No judgment that you don't. But I feel like I've lost a lot of my tribe. And they start to feel alone, these people. And they could go down a rabbit hole and their mind could grab them and that. Or they just realize that they're still with these people and they connect with them on a different level. But there's a difference. The relationships do change.
Yeah.
They do get severed. And you find those people start seeking like minds who are awakened, mindful individuals, which is why we always said, people tell us like why we get along so well. And it's because we are like-minded in this. Like we see the world through the same pair of glasses. So it's easy for us to have these conversations. And you start seeking out people like that. That's why people join groups or, meditation classes, yoga classes, whatever, just to find more people who are like them.
Yeah.
And it helps them go deeper and actually nourish that in themselves. And it's not about not talking to old friends. No, not at all. I still love every one of my friends, everybody in my life. Some of them are awakened, some of them aren't. It's just the way it is. But there's a immediate severing sometimes.
And that happens because, again, you now have this lens and you're looking through it and you go, oh, man. And you see things that before you didn't see. And because you want to stay on this path, which is giving you great peace, great results, you kind of have to not sever, but simply put,
When I say sever, I don't mean sever the relationship. I mean, but that,
yeah,
that old mental relationship you had with that person has been cut.
We say it all.
The identity, that identity that you've had for each other, well, there's something different here. You're still looking you're looking at the world differently. You're very cynical. You're very, whatever it might be. And I don't see the world like that anymore.
Well, just put it this way. If we go back and we were to have conversations with all the baseball dads that we had in our group,
whom we love,
you kidding me? But you'd notice it real quick how if they haven't gone,
yeah, because I haven't talked to a lot of them. Just
but you notice real quick,
pure different life paths.
Put yourself today into the conversation of yesterday, and
I'd be a fish out of a fish out of water. I'd be sitting there by myself going.
Yes, and you know what? I don't think you would be, but you would be definitely.
Meaning, I'd be sitting there. I'd be a lot quieter. those who know me, I wasn't. I'd be a lot quieter in certain conversations. I still have to joke around and bust chops,
right?
But I'd be a lot quieter in certain conversations.
The engagement would be different.
Yeah, that's
the engagement
where I used to take part in a lot of those conversations because it's what I knew.
Yeah, and that's why when you said the of like I don't know how many months ago when you said, when I asked this person, well, why do we have to gossip? Why do we have to complain, or what else are we going to talk about?
That's scary. It's scary. And those are the people that, unfortunately, that a portion gets severed there, but the relationship stays. But they might not notice the difference right away. You notice it immediately, and then they notice it when you don't partake in those conversations. And hopefully, if they love you enough, and we've said this before, that relationship doesn't suffer if the friendship is strong enough. If there's a basis there, it doesn't suffer. Right. It just feels different, but it doesn't really suffer. It won't suffer the relationship. But
we don't want you to suffer. So
so we started out talking about acceptance today, everybody. So I hope you guys stayed with us the whole time. Remember. Just take this with you. Acceptance is not wishing things were different than they were. It's accepting that they actually are the way they are, and you're willing to move forward with it. There's a release there. Remember that once you don't need to ask that question anymore, you just know. And if you have any questions about this, I mean, I know I've said this 1,000 times. If you have any questions, just reach out to us. We could point you in the direction of books, articles, people that we follow. We'd love to. So
YouTube, Facebook,
Podbean, so
Google, everything, Apple, everything, Spotify, and Spreaker, everything.
We're everywhere. Raspberry, blueberry, raspberry, we're everywhere. Strawberry,
we're everywhere.
All right. Okay, let's wrap this baby up. Okay.
Coming for a landing.
All right. So today's meditation, as we do it, let's focus on. I want you to think about something in your life that is not going your way. It could be anything. Financial, your sports team sucks. If you're a big sports fan, I'm a Giants fan. I feel the pain. Whatever it might be. Focus on that thing that it bothers you. It bothers you immensely. And I want you to envision that you chose this to be the way it is. This is how you chose it to be. This horrible event that is happening to you, a thing that you don't want, you actually chose it to be like this. This is what you wanted. And just sit with that, and we're going to breathe for a couple of minutes, right? We're just going to do breathing. You don't have to, let's not try to focus on anything else. I want you to just focus on, I chose this to be the way it is. And see if you can find the release in there as you're feeling that, you're not repeating it to yourself. You're not saying it to yourself 1,000 times. You're just focusing on, this is what I chose, and whatever it might be. Okay? So let's, if you're seated, try to just fix your posture. And let's start taking some deep breaths. Like I said, 4 or 5 second hold on the inhale. And then we'll hold it for 4 or 5 seconds and exhale for 4 or 5 seconds. And let's just repeat that pattern and bring that event, the thought, to our forefront. Let's try to keep our focus on there with the idea of, this is what I chose. This is how I want it to be. And I want you to keep breathing as I'm talking. This is how I wanted it to be. This is the path that I chose. And if this is what I chose, I fully accept that this is what it is. by fully accepting it. I'm not wanting it. I'm not needing it. I'm not needing it to be different. You could want it to be different, but you don't need it to be different. And notice yourself watching that thought. Try to find that spot where you notice it, where you're watching it, but you are not that thought anymore. You're not that event. You're not that issue. You're not that problem. You're not that pain. You're not that whatever it might be. In there, in that space, that's where we try to anchor. That's that place of presence. So this is what you chose. So this isn't happening to you. This isn't being thrust upon you by another force. This isn't being done to you by somebody else. You actually chose this out of your own free will. That is how you get to true acceptance. And remember, you could act to work on the issue, but accepting it honestly and completely means as if you chose it to happen. And you might, and if you don't, that's fine. But if you do feel that, sometimes it might be a very faint little release, a faint feeling of airness, space. That is it. Just keep working on that. Let's take a couple of more deep breaths. And one more. You slowly open your eyes. And I hope that was beneficial for everybody. Keep doing it.
That was great.
Yeah, that was a nice little twist on it. But remember, it's always about noticing things. So, all right, guys, thank you very much for, I'm not going to say bearing with us, for having the pleasure of being with us for another hour today.
Absolutely.
This is an honor for us, and it should be a pleasure for you. And you get to look at some eye candy at the same time.
Yeah, that's the way we look at it.
So I've been told. All right, guys. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Thank you.
Peace. The insights and discussions that we speak about on our show are our own opinions and based on our life experiences. If you or someone in your family or someone you know is suffering and in need of help, please get them that help through medical attention or seeking proper therapy. Again, what we speak about are based on our experiences and not intended to be taken as a form of therapy. Thank you.